right, so Kentucky Republican Rand Paul is the chair of the Homeland Security Committee, which is great. But I happen to know he's a monetary expert, as was his father. We used to talk all the time about it, and I kind of miss that. So, Senator Paul, I thought we'd have some fun. Kevin Warsh, okay, hashtag free Kevin Warsh is being held up by the Justice Department. Anyway, the Warsh nomination is now set for April 21st. That's the Banking Committee hearing. All the papers are in. Okay. Interestingly, Treasury man Scott Bessent said, I think yesterday, that for now, with the energy prices high in the war, it is not a good idea to have the Fed press down interest rates. So he's sort of taken Kevin Warsh off the hook. And since I saw you were coming on as a guest and I was delighted, I thought I'd get your opinion about that. This perhaps is not the time, maybe later in the year, next year, I don't know, but perhaps not now with near $100 oil. What do you think, Senator Paul?
You know, Larry, it's got to be a setup when someone calls you a monetary expert. When I'm just a lowly physician, you know, a surgeon, but not a monetary expert. But you know what? I'm humble enough to know that I don't think anybody's monetary expert enough to know what the price of any commodity or any good should be. And the dollar is no different. The price of interest is similar to the price of bread or similar to the price of anything that should be based on supply and demand. And anybody that tells you they know the correct price of the money or the correct interest rate is actually lacking in the humility that they should have. So I really don't know what the interest rates should be. I don't know what the price of bread should be. The marketplace should be determining it. And for the most part, humans should stay out of the way. I know the Fed sets the overnight rate and has influence on interest rates, but most people say there still is a marketplace. And really, I would rather see the Fed following the marketplace rather than leading the marketplace.
I agree, 100%. I agree with that. You know,
I know you and I were of one mind. I knew it.
No, listen, I used to agree with your father about watching the price of gold back in the day. But the point is, for the moment, Bessent is not agreeing with President Trump. Mr. Trump wants rates down. Now, you know, you don't want the Fed pushing more and more money into the economy, which might make a temporary inflation permanent. And that's why I think Bessent is giving good advice to Warsh and whoever listened. Let's not force the rates right now. Let's not force the Federal Reserve into being overly easy and expansionist. And we really don't need it anyway.
Well, and the OECD and others are saying inflation is higher than people had been projecting. I think they said maybe 4.2%. Others are saying 3.5%. Certainly better than some of the other currencies around the world, but there still is some risk. And, you know, easier money, looser money is probably not the answer. I think staying the course and not looking for an easy fix, but we're still a great place. I mean, the marketplace is still doing well despite the war, despite the price of oil. But, you know, a lot of us still remember the 1970s when the oil price seemed to lead a lot of other prices, but there was a lot of easy money floating around at the time, too, in the 1970s. So I don't think we should do anything to fan the flames.
I agree, 1,000%. Now, have you met Warsh? And, you know, what do you think of him? Are you ready to support him?
I have not met him. He comes with good recommendations and a great academic pedigree, as well as, you know, many conservatives and those who are believing in fiscal responsibility have high remarks on his character and his academic credentials. You know, I have not made any kind of final conclusion. I'd like to meet with him, like to hear more about, you know, what his thoughts are on how to run the central bank. But I'm not committed, you know, one way or the other strongly.
He wants a smaller Fed. He wants no central planning, a smaller Fed.
And I got to believe you for that. Yes. Sounds like a man after my own heart.
Well, so I thought I'd put that plug in because I knew you'd like that. And I think you ought to meet. He's a really good guy, and he's a smart guy, and he has tremendous integrity. But the Justice Department should not hold this up. That's what worries me. Mr. Tillis, you know, is making his Custer's last stand. I mean, it's time to move on. Let's just get this done. Jay Powell shouldn't be Fed chairman for life.
I definitely agree with that. No one should be Fed chairman for life. And I'd really like to eliminate the position so we didn't need a Fed chairman. But I think at this point it will be freed up, but I also think that, look, I'm not a big Jerome Powell fan, but I'm not a big fan of using the law to go after people. Was there a lot of waste and bad decisions on building some palace over at the Fed? Absolutely. Whether that rises to some sort of prosecution, I hate to see lawfare on either side, really. So I think the best way to let Jay Powell go is to dispense with any kind of prosecution. Let's kind of be done with this so we can get a new Fed chairman.
Senator Rand Paul, you are a monetary expert. I repeat my introduction. You did a great job. We appreciate seeing you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank
All
you.
right, folks, coming up.